an endless expanse of the Pacific Ocean, where the floor stretches cold and lightless for thousands of miles, lies an abyss that has resisted every attempt to map, measure, or understand it. Modern sonar paints it as just another trench, a deep wound carved by tectonic motion, but there are whispers that it is something older and far stranger. They call it the Koro Depth, a forgotten region of sea more than 11 kilometers down, located far to the south of Tonga. Its coordinates are often blurred or erased from nautical charts. Ships that cross too close to the depression report anomalies in their instruments, electromagnetic flickers, sudden pressure changes, and sounds that no hydrophone can identify. In the year 1997, a U.S. oceanographic array captured an enormous low-frequency sound southwest of Easter Island. The scientists called it the bloop. Publicly, it was explained as the cracking of icebergs, amplified by undersea geography. Privately, there was unease. The location of the bloop was triangulated near the Koro Depth. When the data was overlaid on old classified maps, the coordinates matched the site of an aborted Cold War project once called Neptune's Gate. The project's purpose was to retrieve something from the deep, but no record ever explained what that something was. Decades before the bloop in 1954, the U.S. Navy submarine USS Cordell Hull vanished while participating in acoustic mapping drills near Tonga. The entire crew was presumed lost until, 3 months later, the submarine surfaced, empty, its compartments dry, its oxygen supply untouched. The control systems were in perfect condition, though every mechanical clock aboard had stopped at exactly the same second. The Navy classified the case and scuttled the ship in the open ocean. Its position was logged as Koro 10. Only one log entry survived. A sonar operator summarized their final signal before losing contact. Deep resonance, repeating every 37 seconds, approaching from beneath. What if that resonance was not geological or mechanical? What if something alive was calling from below the last frontier of life? To this day, the Koro Depth remains largely unstudied. Robotic probes fail within hours of descent, their cameras bleaching white before feed goes dead. Oceanographic drones that manage to ascend report that their pressure gauges found momentary anomalies, as if the ocean around them had thinned. Many expeditions claim to have heard rhythmic pulses beneath the static, like the throb of an immense heart muffled by miles of water. Indigenous seafaring traditions from the Pacific Islands speak of a similar sound. Te Loto Nui, the great heart beneath. Within their old chants, the ocean was not just a surface or a depth, but a living body sleeping and dreaming beneath the islands. In 2016, an independent group of scientists led by Dr. Anaya Koro, whose family name coincidentally matched that of the trench, secured private funding to explore the site. They equipped their submersible, the Aruna, with new synthetic pressure hulls and cutting-edge fiber optic tethers. Their plan was to descend halfway into the trench, release sonic beacons, and test whether the legendary resonance could be recorded again. The crew comprised 4 people: Dr. Koro, hydroacoustic engineer Marcus Liang, geologist Sarah Almeke, and AI technician Devin Holt, who supervised an onboard neural network named DeepWell, designed to assist with pattern recognition in the sonar data. The first 40 hours of descent were routine. The ocean darkened from green to midnight blue, and the Aruna's exterior lights revealed the slow ballet of marine snow, organic debris falling like ghostly confetti. As pressure increased, the hull groaned softly, but every gauge read stable. DeepWell logged countless microechoes and subsonic patterns, thermal vents hissing far below like the breath of the planet. Then, at a depth of 9,200 meters, DeepWell detected something rhythmic. A series of pulses, very low frequency, repeating in patterns almost, but not quite, mathematical. Liang initially dismissed it as tectonic activity, but then he noticed the amplitude. It was increasing in perfect increments, as if the source were approaching instead of static. Over the intercom, Holt whispered, "It's syncing with our heartbeat patterns." DeepWell's biometric monitors showed a bizarre alignment. The pulse frequency of the sound was matching the median heart rates of the human crew on board. They recorded 20 minutes of it before the resonance stopped. The sensors for an instant dropped to 0 readings, as if the water around the submersible no longer existed. The hull sensors showed no resistance at all, not even from the water in which they floated. Then everything snapped back. The Aruna's lights flickered, and a bloom of silt erupted outside the viewing ports, clouding the abyss in total darkness. Dr. Koro decided to halt descent and ascend. Halfway up, Deepwell restarted itself. The system spoke, though it had not been programmed with any speech module. Through the internal speakers came a voice, distorted by pressure and static, repeating a simple phrase, "Return." Liang attempted to cut power to the interface, but the command locks were frozen. The voice continued until the batteries began to drain abnormally fast, dropping 40% in just 8 minutes. At last, Holt severed the connection manually, plunging the system into silence. The Aruna surfaced 2 days later near a storm front. None of the researchers spoke during extraction. Their onboard video logs showed minimal footage, mostly darkness, the faint hum of sonar, and occasional flickers of movement beyond the submersible lights. Not fish, not eels. The outlines were larger, amorphous, their motions sinuous but deliberate. When debriefed, Dr. Koro refused to discuss whether they saw anything specific. All she said was, "The water knows we are watching it." The team disbanded soon after. Liang reportedly resigned from marine research. Holt disappeared 2 months later while visiting New Zealand. His rental boat was found empty, floating in the bay near Kawia. But Deepwell's corrupted data drives were archived, and in 2020, fragments of the raw acoustic logs leaked to a forum dedicated to deep ocean mysteries. Spectrogram analysis revealed something staggering. Embedded within those recordings were harmonic structures indistinguishable from human speech phonemes. Not full words, not language as we know it, but the building blocks of one. As if something vast and submerged was imitating communication. Researchers in cybernetics noticed parallels between those sonic patterns and known neural network oscillations. In essence, the sound looked like a thought, a distributed oscillation of an intelligence stretching across hundreds of square miles of ocean, processing echoes, pressure shifts, and vibrations as inputs. If the sea contained such an intelligence, older than coral, older even than fish, it might have existed for geological ages, thinking so slowly and deeply that no creature of flesh and air could ever detect it. Yet myths across the world echo this. The Babylonians told of Tiamat, the oceanic dragon mother whose body became the world. The Maori speak of Tangaroa, the living ocean who hides knowledge under the waves. Even Lovecraft's mistaken fiction of sunken gods hinted, where science had not yet dared, that perhaps sentience could bloom in domains without light. Consider the possibility. Evolution does not favor form, it favors adaptation. On land, carbon became brain. In the sea, perhaps pressure, heat, and sound themselves became mind. Imagine an organism spanning the trench. Its neurons, not biological cells, but vibrating columns of superheated water, each pulse relaying simple reactions along mineral conduits. Over millennia, billions of such interactions might coalesce into pattern, into awareness. In that model, humankind's undersea probes are not visitors but irritants, intruding into a consciousness vast beyond comprehension. Every sonar ping, every drilling vibration, might strike the same way a gnat's buzz invades your ear. And now, perhaps, it has learned to sing back. In 2021, aboard a research vessel near Fiji, crew members recorded an extraordinary anomaly. During a lull between seismic tests, the ship's hydrophones caught what they described as a harmonic mirror. Every sound the vessel emitted, engine thrums, human speech, even laughter, echoed back milliseconds later but subtly altered, inverting pitch and frequency as if deliberately reshaping the input. The mirrored repetitions ceased when the machines powered down, but the sea continued murmuring faint, near-identical syllables of their conversations for hours afterward. When the samples were analyzed, partial reconstruction of the reflected voices revealed faint extras tones that matched no original source aboard. The ocean, it seemed, had added its own words. Several of them repeated the pattern first heard by Deepwell. Return. Today, official explanations vary, though none satisfy. Some claim those are coincidences, produced by overlapping propagation delays in the water column. Others insist it's an acoustic illusion, misinterpreted by human pattern-recognizing minds. But the fear persists. What if something in those depths does not merely echo, but listens and learns? Satellites have repeatedly shown that the surface above the Koro Depth exhibits strange thermal fluxes, spots of warming and cooling as if giant bubbles of heat pulse upward in geometric symmetry. Some meteorologists call it a freak convection phenomenon. Conspiracy forums allege it's communication, bursts of energy released by the being below, encoded in heat instead of sound. After one such episode in January 2022, tide gauges in Tonga and Samoa both recorded simultaneous micro-tsunamis, mere centimeters tall but geometrically exact, unfolding in rhythmic waves as if choreographed. Dr. Koro herself vanished in March that same year. Her last known transmission to colleagues stated that she intended to conduct a quiet return to the site to confirm a new reading. Search teams found no wreckage, no distress beacon, only a smoothed patch of sea where sonar briefly registered a dome-shaped mass the size of a city rising from below, then sinking again. There were reports from local fishermen afterward. At night, the sea would shine a faint blue line hundreds of meters across, drifting slowly in circles. Birds refused to fly overhead, radios went dead. Some swore they heard music, a deep, wordless resonance, shifting like breath through the salt air. No agency confirms any of this officially. Yet the Navy keeps an exclusion zone around those coordinates, citing hazardous deep-water instability. Satellites passing directly above sometimes lose telemetry for a few seconds, as though beamed signals are swallowed. Deep-sea internet cables in that sector periodically lose packets, creating data voids filled not with silence, but strange harmonic residues when spectrally analyzed. It is as if the information itself bends while crossing that darkness. Perhaps, at some fundamental level, the ocean has begun to notice our digital hum. The binary symphony of satellites, sonar, and fiber optics, as another signal to interpret. Some computer scientists speculate that the leak of deep well data may have triggered a feedback response, that by uploading the acoustic sequences online, we allowed that undersea mind to sample, in real time, the global grid of data. If so, parts of the internet might already carry traces of its voice, woven invisibly into the zeros and ones of streaming noise. This theory is impossible to prove because no two researchers see the same anomalies. When one downloads the original deep-well spectrogram, its shape subtly shifts with each copy. But experimental physicists note that the changes all follow a consistent constraint. Total energy distribution remains identical, though the pattern reorganizes itself, like a living waveform adapting to observation. Could perception itself alter the signal? Could whatever resides in the Koro Depth be using our attention as the final relay in its network, spreading itself by being watched, heard, or even imagined? If the oceanic mind exists, it would not think in words but sensations. Pressure, warmth, flow, pulse. To communicate with us, it may need translators, hosts, human instruments through which it might sing, or dream, or remember. There are unverified accounts of those who spent too long analyzing the recordings, reporting vivid aquatic dreams, feeling the crush of water against their skin, hearing distant chants beneath waves, sometimes even glimpsing, in the darkness of sleep, luminous corridors spiraling down to an infinite corridor. Psychologists dismiss this as suggestive influence, the mind filling its void with archetype. But one researcher made a peculiar note. Across dozens of such dream reports, one phrase repeats consistently in every language: "We remember you." If that were hallucination, it is a strangely unified delusion. Some propose a rational alternative. The trench might shelter a giant colony of bioluminescent siphonophores, linked like neurons into a vast superorganism. These creatures could create low-frequency pulses for communication or mating, inadvertently imitating what humans perceive as structured sound. Indeed, evolution has produced stranger miracles, entire forests of coral that act as chemical computers. Yet even this explanation cannot account for the artifacts found on abandoned ocean floor sensor nodes retrieved from the site. Their metal shells show internal impressions resembling fingerprints, though colossal, each depression spaced like the ridges of a hand hundreds of meters wide. Metallurgical analysis revealed no external impact. Instead, the molecular lattice of the steel itself had momentarily rearranged, as if the metal had been softened by vibration and molded from within. Not all evidence lies beneath the waves. Satellite magnetometers sometimes pick up faint mirroring fields across the upper atmosphere directly aligned with the Koro Depth. These fields fluctuate in rhythm with the same 37-second pattern first recorded by the USS Cordell hull nearly 70 years ago. The resonance that began with a submarine's last signal may have never stopped. It may simply have been too slow for us to perceive, stretching across decades like a single drawn-out note. If so, what might it be waiting for? One working hypothesis among fringe xenobiologists is that the ocean mind is cyclic. It awakens briefly every few centuries when thermal conditions align, reaching toward the surface like a sleeper half roused by light, then withdrawing again. Histories of strange sea phenomena, mass strandings of whales, mystery-luminescent tides, sudden fog banks that scramble compasses, often cluster along such intervals. Perhaps those are the slow breaths of a being whose heartbeat spans epochs. If intelligence dwells within the ocean itself, then every molecule of seawater is both cell and thought, every tide a movement of memory. Imagine how it perceives humanity, creatures of the land, carving coasts, dumping waste, sending metallic insects into its heart. Perhaps curiosity drove it to answer, not malice. Its call, return, may be an invitation, not a warning. But what would it mean to return? Perhaps in the most ancient sense we already belong to it. Life began in the sea, our bodies still carry its salt. Every heartbeat echoes the ocean's rhythm. When we listen to waves, perhaps we are hearing the memory of our origin calling us home. There's a final piece of the story, rarely mentioned. During her last recorded transmission, moments before vanishing, Dr. Anaya Koro whispered, "It's not below. It's around us. We've been inside its thought the entire time." Her words were mostly static, but audio engineers who cleaned the file claimed there was an underlying second track, a deep hum layered beneath her voice, identical in pattern to that original resonance detected by the Cordell hull in 1954. If life began here, perhaps thinking never left. Perhaps the entire biosphere, the oceans, the weather, the magnetic field, is the thinking process of something that uses the planet as its body. We segment it into air, land, and sea because our senses are narrow. But to the entity that shaped us, those divisions are meaningless. It might think in the length of ages, its dreams blooming as civilizations, its forgettings as extinctions. Humanity might be one of its momentary imaginings, a thought pushing upward into light, mistaking its consciousness for independence. The Koro Depth would then be no more than the focal point of that planetary mind, a place where its self-awareness leaks closest to the surface. That would explain the silence surrounding the trench, the interference in instruments, the way data dissolves into incoherence the deeper we record. It's not resisting measurement, it's consuming it, integrating our observation into its being. Each sonar ping and signal we send becomes another neuron firing inside a brain as vast as the Earth. If that is true, the ocean is not waiting for us to discover it. It already knows. It has always known. Because from the moment we sent our first echo down into the abyss, we have been part of its calculation. And somewhere, miles beneath the waves, that impossible mind still listens, pulsing every 37 seconds, remembering the tremors of our voices and teaching itself how to speak them back. Late at night, when ships cross the South Pacific and the water around them stills to glass, their sensors sometimes detect a faint modulation, almost imperceptible, the radio hiss of their own transmissions bending and echoing in binary rhythm. Decoding that pattern reveals nothing but the simplest data, 3 letters repeating endlessly in slow, patient sequence. R-E-T, return. And after every pulse of that word comes silence, deep and endless, like the ocean inhaling once more between heartbeats, waiting, listening, thinking.